The battle for Bunker Hill was a significant battle fought between the British and your main dudes, the American colonists, in the early stages of the American Revolutionary War. It took place on June 17, 1775. While much of the initial fighting actually took place on Breed's Hill, which is next to Bunker Hill, the battle will become known as Bunker Hill due to it being the original objective of both the colonists and the British troops. On June 13, 1775, the leaders of the colonial forces who were besieging Boston learned that your boys, the British, were planning to send troops out from the city to capture and fortify the unoccupied hills surrounding the city. This plan would give them control of the Boston harbor, which would allow them to flex up on your boys, the Americans. So in response to this new information, your main man, ball-out Colonel William Prescott, under the cover of night, would take a detachment of colonial troops and militiamen stacked 1,200 deep and stealthily occupy Bunker Hill and Breed's Hill before the British even knew what had happened. Early the next morning, on June 17th, the British would feel some type of way after becoming aware of what the American forces had done. To make matters even worse, the American forces had already started to dig in and fortify their positions, fortifying Breed's Hill the most due to it being closer to the Boston harbor and its better vantage point. William Prescott and his men will quickly dig out trenches and barricade themselves on the tops of the hill. The defenses would seem based. However, the British weren't about to just stand there and allow the Americans to hold the hills. Your main man, General Gage, would order that every warship in the harbor open up with a full bombardment on the American positions. However, to the aggravation of your boy, General Gage, the barrage would have little effect on dislodging the Americans. With the ground assault being the only option left for your boys, the British generals would meet to discuss their plan of attack. Your main wig-wearing dude, General Clinton, would argue that they should attack the hills, but do so by attacking the fortifications along Charleston Neck, cutting off the Americans' retreat. However, this plan of attack would be outvoted by the other generals. Your main dudes, General Howe and General Burgoyne, preferred a head-on attack, being completely confident in their soldiers' abilities to put a major clapping on the Americans, and believing that the ragtag band of liberty lovers would fold like a New York-style pizza. The British would prepare for an attack. Now, the main British attacking force was made up of British regulars and British grenadiers. These soldiers, armed with Brown Bess muskets, which fired a lead ball and was accurate at around 100 yards. These muskets could be equipped with a sharp bayonet, which measured around 18 inches long. These bayonets could be used to deliver devastating slashes and thrusts to anyone on the receiving end. You can imagine the fear that would grip the hearts and minds of anyone getting ready to face your boys, the British Redcoats. This was truly a formidable and intimidating sight to any colonist. Now, your main dude, General Howe, would order the attack. The British forces, numbering around 2,200, would advance up towards the hill from multiple points. Marching up the grassy hill along with the hot summer heat would prove to be challenging for the British forces. However, they pressed forward, with the light infantry or regular British soldiers in the front leading the initial advance, followed up by the grenadiers. The British soldiers would march up towards the colonists' positions. However, the Redcoats were unaware of the markers that the Americans had placed in the tall grass. These markers helped indicate to the American sharpshooters exactly how close the British were, maximizing their ability for accuracy. It is also believed that an order was given to the men not to fire till they saw the whites of the British soldiers' eyes. Now, once the Redcoats were within range, the freedom-loving Americans would aim their muskets and open up with a devastating volley. Musket balls would tear through the British soldiers, shattering bones and sending fragments of flesh flying through the air. The first initial volley from the Americans was so intense and devastating that waves of British regulars were dropped before they could even fire. The British grenadiers would also try to advance, but they too would get curb-stomped by the suppressive fire from your boys, the American rebels. After getting cooked, the British, confused and dazed, would fall back, leaving the hillside littered with the bodies of their comrades. Now, your boy, General Howe, seeing this, would be stunned by the bitter stiffness and resolve of your boys, the ragtag Americans. However, he would regroup his forces in order that they attack again. But just like before, the Americans would put another epic clapping on the British, forcing them to fall back. Now, after losing a number of high-ranking officers, the British General Staff, feeling some type of way and feeling humiliated, would try to regroup and assess the situation. But things on the American side weren't all good either. Even though they had successfully repelled 2 British attacks, their positions were slowly deteriorating. They were also running very low on ammunition. I'm talking straight up broke low on ammunition. And to make things even worse, there were breakdowns in command, and many of the men started to drop out. Now, while the hillside was scattered with the wounded British soldiers crying out in pain and moaning, General Howe would send word to your boy General Clinton in Boston to send additional troops to reinforce him so that he could try another attack. Clinton would send around 400 men to help reinforce his boy, General Howe. Now, feeling like he had enough dudes to once again try another attempt on the Americans, however, this time he would change tactics. The British would concentrate squarely on the redoubt defenses. Your boy General Howe would also order his men to remove their heavy packs and leave all unnecessary equipment behind. He also changed their attack formations, which exposed fewer of his men to fire. The third attack would also be more of a direct charge, with bayonets fixed. The British would advance again, stepping over their dying or deleted comrades. Now your boys, the freedom lovers, would open fire again. However, due to the lack of ammunition and change of British tactics, they would not be as effective. Once the British soldiers finally reached the Americans, they would become unhinged. Using their superior training along with their bayonets, they would begin to put a major clapping on the American forces, driving them back. The Americans, not equipped with bayonets, were no match against the British. Using their bayonets to stab or thrust, the British grenadiers and regulars would make short work of anyone who tried to resist. However, the fleeing American colonists would have one last trick up their sleeve. Those that still had ammo would turn and deliver one final volley fire into the British. This would cost the lives of a number of British soldiers, including an officer. After this volley, the Americans being completely out of ammo would withdraw and dip out. Although technically considered a British victory because they ultimately gained control of the hill, the victory came at a great cost, with over 1,000 casualties compared to fewer than 500 for the American forces. Your boy General Howe would be demoralized and humiliated, and even though the colonial forces had lost the battle, it would become a great morale booster, because in the eyes of the Americans, they had just curb-stomped one of the world's greatest militaries with a band of patriots. The Battle of Bunker Hill would demonstrate to the world that your boys the Americans and their militia could stand up effectively against professional soldiers. This would inspire further resistance throughout America by showing that independence was achievable.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment. Feedback is much appreciated. You guys have a wonderful day. Much love. Peace.